The rain had only just stopped when the boy appeared on the side of the broken road, shivering, soaked, and clutching a rusted little bicycle as if it were the last treasure he had left in the world. His eyes were hollow, exhausted beyond his years, and his thin arms trembled not from the cold but from hunger so deep it seemed to echo through his bones. Cars passed by without slowing, people walked past without noticing, but fate brought a group of bikers roaring down the road, their engines loud enough to shake the air, yet even louder was the silent desperation in the boy's gaze. It was the kind of moment that grabs the soul before the mind even understands what's happening, the kind of scene that forces you to stop, breathe, and realize that life's cruelties often strike the smallest shoulders. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and humanity, please like, comment, share, and subscribe right now. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. The bikers slowed because something about that boy didn't feel ordinary. His clothes were worn out, his hair dusty, and the bicycle he held was far too small for him, almost as if it belonged to a past where life used to be normal. The leader of the group, a tall man with a calm gaze, parked his bike and approached, and as he got closer, he could see the fear in the boy's eyes, fear mixed with a heartbreaking determination. The boy stood straighter, swallowed the lump in his throat, and lifted the bike slightly as though presenting it for inspection. It wasn't necessary for anyone to speak to understand that he wasn't there to play, wasn't there to beg, and wasn't hoping for sympathy. He had come to sell the only thing he had left because survival had pushed him into adulthood far too early. The rain-soaked air felt heavier as the boy tried to appear strong, but his voice cracked under the weight of hunger and worry. He explained, in scattered, trembling words, that his mother had not eaten for 2 days. She had grown weak, too weak to stand, too weak to pretend everything was okay. He said they had lost their home, their belongings, and even their relatives had shut their doors on them after his father disappeared without a trace. Everything they owned, except this tiny bicycle, had been taken from them by people who claimed to be helping but had instead stolen the little savings his mother had left. That bicycle, once a symbol of childhood joy, had become their last hope for a meal. The bikers stood still, stunned in a silence so deep it felt like the world had paused to listen. They didn't see a child, they saw a fighter, a protector, a son desperately trying to save the only family he had. Each word he spoke carried a weight that made even these strong, grown men feel their throats tighten. His small hands clutched the handlebars, and he kept wiping his face not because of the rain, but because he didn't want strangers to see his tears. But the pain in his voice was impossible to hide. The bikers exchanged glances, each silently agreeing that this wasn't just a child in trouble. This was a family broken by cruelty, a mother who had sacrificed everything, and a boy who refused to give up on her. They gently took the bicycle from his hands and asked him to guide them to where his mother was. As they followed him through narrow lanes and muddy paths, they noticed how familiar the neighborhood seemed, too familiar. Some of them had once lived in places just like this, places where struggle lived in every corner. When they reached the small, crumbling room the boy called home, they found his mother lying on a thin sheet, her face pale, her breath shallow. She wasn't sleeping, she was weakened by hunger and heartbreak. The bikers felt something shift inside them, a powerful mix of anger and compassion. They immediately brought food, water, and medicine from their bikes, and the boy watched anxiously as his mother ate slowly, tears falling from the corners of her eyes because she had always fed him first, always shielded him from hunger even when she starved herself. As she regained a little strength, she revealed how their savings had been taken by a man who had pretended to help them find a cheaper place to stay. He had promised safety, promised support, and then vanished with everything. She had been too ashamed to ask anyone for help, too afraid to burden her child with the truth. But when hunger cornered them, her son had made the decision she never would have allowed, selling his bicycle, his last symbol of joy, To save her life, the bikers, once strangers, felt a fire rising in their hearts. This wasn't just misfortune. This was injustice. And they refused to let it go unanswered. They tracked down the men responsible, confronted him with a force he had never expected, and reclaimed every single rupee he had stolen. By the time they returned, the mother was sitting up, holding her son's hand, her eyes filled with gratitude and disbelief. The bikers didn't stop there. They repaired the broken walls of the small room, brought groceries, clothes, and everything needed for a fresh start. The boy watched as they cleaned, painted, and rebuilt his world, and for the first time in months, hope began to warm the cold corners of his heart. When they handed him back his little bicycle, clean, fixed, shining as if new, he broke down completely, his tears falling into the hands that had once held despair but now held the promise of a future. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to support more life-changing stories like this. Before the ending, please comment below, humanity still exists. In the days that followed, the mother regained her strength, and the boy began to smile again, real, innocent smiles that belong to children who feel safe. The bikers visited often, not out of obligation, but out of genuine care. And slowly, a broken family was lifted back to life by the kindness of people who had once been strangers. The boy learned that not all who are loud are dangerous, and not all who are quiet are kind. He learned that sometimes help comes from the most unexpected places, and sometimes, even the smallest act of courage, like trying to sell a little bicycle, can awaken the goodness in the world. And the bikers, they rode away with a lesson that would stay with them forever. Sometimes the strongest hearts beat inside the smallest bodies, and sometimes saving someone else becomes the moment you save yourself.